our final presentation today is with Global Aerospace. They are a leading provider of aerospace insurance with a worldwide portfolio of clients who are engaged in every aspect of the aviation and space industries. Known for its innovative approach to providing insurance solutions for the industry, the company's underwriting is backed by a pool of high-quality insurance companies representing some of the most respected names in the business. As you may have seen, they're providing a substantial discount to GoAERO teams, so we highly encourage you to look into their offerings, and please take this opportunity to ask any questions that you might have. Thank you. Kyle and Nick.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, folks. Thanks for hanging around for the insurance session. Just going to drive through this over the next 15, 20 minutes. See if we got an agenda here. We'll cover a little bit about the history. So the reason that we're involved, and we're excited to be involved, the reason we're involved started with our relationship with Boeing. And we've been the lead market from an underwriting and claims perspective on the Boeing account for many, many years. And when Gwen and her team approached us to get involved, we were excited about the opportunity. That was back in the GoFly days, and we've now progressed and matured to the GoAERO competition. We'll talk a little bit about risk and insurance considerations, a quick overview of Global Aerospace, some industry trends, and then Kyle will get into the process of actually obtaining the insurance offering that we're making. So aircraft insurance, so we put a definition up there. It's not everybody's favorite topic, right, insurance, but think of it as sort of a cost of doing business because you want to protect your assets, you want to protect your financial position so that you can continue to innovate and design the things that you're doing, reach your business goals and objectives. And one important point to remember on the policy that we've created for the competition is that it pays for lawyers to defend you if you're brought into litigation or if you're sued. That's a really important feature of the policy. And then just some quick words here on risk management 101. Everybody's taking on risk. There's different techniques to handle it. You can apply control, which is basically you're avoiding the risk, or you could actually engage with some loss prevention and reduction measures. You can also finance the risk, so contractually transfer it to another party. You can retain the risk on your balance sheet, or you can transfer the risk, which is essentially what you're doing when you're buying insurance. And just a couple of words about what we do at Global Aerospace in terms of underwriting. We're assessing risk. We're looking at perils. Think of things like pilot error, equipment failure, fire, lightning, some of the things that Tom referenced earlier, whether that's wires, wind, temperature swings. We're making those assessments in the underwriting process. And one of the key principles of insurance is charging enough from the masses to pay the unfortunate losses of a few. And to be successful in the insurance business, it's really important to scale this as well. Some key characteristics that we look at, whether it's the GoAERO competition, whether it's Boeing, whether it's a Fortune 500 flight department, we're always looking at the people first and foremost. What are their credentials, their backgrounds? What is their philosophy on safety? What's the culture like? Those are the key ingredients that we look for when we're underwriting risk. We look at the type of equipment, the infrastructure, and a little bit about the financial background to make sure that they have the money and the wherewithal to invest in their particular risk. So a quick overview of Global Aerospace. And we want to be part of the industry, which is why we leaned into this competition, even going back to the 2018 timeframe when GoFly was first announced. We want to be part of the industry. We engage with our clients too, and part of the reason that Kyle and I are here is because we can learn something from all of you. We have leaned into these, what we call emerging technology, which is alternative propulsion, eVTOLs, things like that. We've leaned into it in contrast to some others in the industry who are taking a wait-and-see approach, which I don't say critically. That's what they want to do, and I respect that. We're leaning in, but we're trying to learn as well, and you guys have the technical expertise to help us. We also think we have a responsibility to the flying public to do the right thing, help people get through high-stress situations, put together lives, after something tragic has happened. So those are the things that motivate us at Global Aerospace. So just a little bit of background there. And then we're a specialist. We're just purely an aviation company, strong financial security. We're backed by Berkshire Hathaway and Munich Re, large German reinsurance company. A lot of us came into Global as aviators, strategic partner for the long term, and Kyle and I have lots of authority to make decisions out in the field. A little bit about our office location. So U.S. headquarters is in New Jersey, and world headquarters is in London. We've got offices around the U.S. and in Europe. And here's just more about the backing. So actually, each one of the policies that we issue is backed by 5 insurance companies: Berkshire, Munich, and then a couple of Japanese companies, and MAPFRE, which is a Spanish insurer. We call that our mutual fund approach to insurance, a diversification of the financial resources behind each policy. You've got 5 companies backing each one of them. And we've got quite a bit of market share, whether it's manufacturer product liability, Fortune 500 flight departments, lots of drones in our portfolio, lots of light aircraft, recreational flyers, and we've got this burgeoning emerging technology portfolio as well. Here's some clients that choose Global Aerospace to protect their assets. You recognize probably some of the brands there. Typically, we're insuring these people for many, many years. It's not in one year, out the next. These are long-term, long-standing relationships. We get to know each other and understand how each other thinks. I already referenced the emerging technology slide. Again, it's us leaning into it and taking a stand and engaging and asking questions like, we've got all these multiple rotors on some of these emerging technology or eVTOL concepts. What do they look like when they break, when one breaks? And do you have contamination in the other rotors that are spinning? We've seen a couple of big high-profile prototype losses that involved rotor blade separations. Battery hazards is another one. What do they look like? Obviously, a lot of talk about thermal runaway, and the manufacturers that we talk to are suggesting that the battery technology is improving pretty dramatically. The FAA and the certification process, you have to contain the batteries, keep them away from passengers, and we're pretty impressed with what the FAA has done in terms of the certification requirement for batteries. But what does that really mean ultimately in the course of utilizing an eVTOL, for example, from New York out to JFK a bunch of times per day and recharging the battery and stuff like that? So those are some open questions that we have. So we're leaning in, but we've got a lot of questions too. And just a little bit about our claims philosophy. Claims protect two components to that: protecting your brand, your company reputation, and protecting your financial situation or your balance sheet. Trying to work to resolve. We collaborate with clients to make sure that they're comfortable with how we're handling litigation and should it be brought to you. And then just some industry trends in the insurance industry, generally in a healthy state, despite some of the activity since Christmas Day in 2024 with Jeju in Korea and the mishap in Azerbaijan. I forget which one that was. The one that actually, there was one on Christmas Day that crashed. That was maybe shot down by a Russian missile. And then we had a couple of mishaps here in the U.S. The fatalities, the number of fatalities is running about average that we would see. So despite some of these high-profile events, the market seems to be weathering it without any issues, and I think it's generally a good time to be purchasers of aviation insurance. And we've got our challenges. Cost to repair airplanes has gone up exponentially since COVID. We've got supply chain challenges which delay airplanes being fixed. And sometimes we're looking at 2-year repair scopes and things like that, which don't go over well with clients. When you tell them, yes, we're going to pay for your claim, but it's going to take you 2 years to get your airplane back, nobody likes to hear that. So we've got some challenges, but in general, we're feeling pretty good about the industry from an insurance perspective. Kyle, I'll let you walk through the process of obtaining our offering.
Thank you, Nick, and good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here. So first off, I'll say, so Nick talked a little bit about who we are and what we do at Global Aerospace, along with some current aviation industry trends, right? The second thing we want to talk about is sort of what we're offering to you guys as participants of the GoAERO competition. And to start off, I will say this does sort of mimic your master team agreement and the requirements that are expected of you. The first thing I want to state is this may look a little bit different than what you're used to seeing as far as insurance policies regarding car insurance, home insurance, or maybe your own personal aircraft. We're putting this under what's called a master policy, and what that means is you won't see your name on that first page, the declarations page, showing you as the individual or your company as the named insured. There's a couple reasons to that, and I'll get into that in a second. But essentially, this over here on the right is going to be the endorsement that essentially gives you your coverage. This is due to two reasons. It's due to we learned that phase one had over 190 participants, so quite a few. Ease a little bit of the administrative burden. And then secondly, it allows us to write and take geographic considerations into account that maybe we could have otherwise not done, because I believe there's over participants in over 50 different countries as well in phase one. So those are the two main reasons. It does not dilute coverage in any way. I just want to point it out because people do tend to have questions on it later on. So to get into the actual coverages, the first and foremost is the third-party bodily injury and property damage liability coverage. Think of this very similar to your car insurance, right? You run into somebody, you're at fault, you're liable, you cause damage to either A, their car, or to B, them. Think of this in the same fact as your emergency response flyer. So your emergency response flyer runs into somebody else's barn, or its return to home feature doesn't work. You see it fly 100 yards the other way and run into something. That's sort of what this coverage is providing right here. The second thing is going to be airport premises liability. Think of this sort of like your home insurance, I guess, a little bit, right? Like somebody has a trip and fall or slips down your stairs. It's providing that third-party premises liability coverage there. And this is primarily for airport premises liability. So a lot of airports will require that you show this hangar insurance to where you lease this out or rent it from them. The next one is third-party war liability coverage, and this one's a little bit different, a little bit more unique to aviation in a sense, I guess. And that's due to it primarily being used for high-risk locations and also high-risk operations, which aviation can tend to be, right? So this is typically things like strikes, riots, hijackings, any other war perils that you can think of. But basically something nobody ever wants to see, right? But basically, so on this one, if your aircraft got spoofed, the GPS got spoofed, and somebody else took control of it and took it somewhere else and ran into somebody or something, that's what this would be for. And then the next one is pretty self-explanatory, right? So once we can provide coverage, that coverage extends worldwide. So no worries about where your operations are taking place or anything like that. And then most importantly is what it provides you, the peace of mind. That's what insurance is, right? It's peace of mind for you, yourself, your family, your company, and hopefully it can allow you to continue operations the way you'd like. So moving on. All right, so the next portion of this is going to be, okay, how do I obtain these coverages as a participant? There's a few different ways. The first method is going to be, you can go to just Google and type in Global Aerospace Forms and Applications, and it will take you to that website link right there. Since we've made this slide, we actually posted this on the HeroX website too, so there will be a link on there as well too. Lastly, if you can't find either of those, you can reach out to us directly at GoAERO@global-aero.com, and we can provide a copy of that documentation for you. And then you can just return it back to that email address. Once we receive your application and everything like that, it's typically a pretty quick process, right? So we can usually get to it within 1 or 2 days, and then, assuming it's approved, which I say assuming, but most of these will be approved, assuming all information is provided. And then from there, basically this is what the application looks like on the right. I'll go over a couple questions I've had over the past few weeks from individuals, participants filling this out. So name of applicant, that's going to be you yourself, whoever fills this out as the individual. The business of business of applicant is going to be where you put the name of your business. And that's going to be typically what we're going to list as the named insured on the additional endorsement. That seems to be a pretty common question. The insurance effective date, that's when you want your insurance to start. You know, we will double check. If you don't know for sure, but you want to get the application done with, you can fill that out, send it in, and then change that in a future date if you need. Getting into coverages, that's pretty self-explanatory. So all the coverages here, like I said, are set to mimic the master team agreement. And the liability coverage is 1 mil each occurrence and 2 mil aggregate. So that means 1 mil for each occurrence that you have, and then the aggregate is based on the policy period, and that policy period is 1 year. So the next thing would be the operators and pilots, pretty self-explanatory, whether remotely piloted or not. And then the ERF type. We're kind of just trying to get a general idea of what you're doing and your operations, and we can go from there. You may need some attachments for some of these questions. There's probably not enough room there, but feel free to attach whatever you may need. Okay, and then continuing the application process, once you have it done, you email it to that email address, goaeroteam@global-aero.com, and we will review it. Next, once it's approved, we will send a PayPal link directly to your email address, and that PayPal link will be active for 10 days. If you need an extension, you can't get it done within 10 days, or maybe you want to change the date, just let us know and we can reissue that PayPal link whenever you may need. You do need to provide the date that you'd like to start the coverage. We will double check that with you so we aren't starting on the incorrect date. If I do remember right from the master team agreement, you guys need to provide insurance certification by 30 days within signing the master team agreement. So just a heads up there. September 30th is what I last showed as the deadline for the stage 2 submissions and when you would need this by. And then what you're seeing on the bottom here is what you're going to provide directly to GoAERO. This is going to be your COI. It will be provided immediately. The whole process, if you're trying to streamline it as fast as possible, can take less than 5 days, payment complete, documentation received, everything. And then from there, you get an invoice and the actual policy itself. But I think that will pretty much wrap us up on this, and happy to take any questions. Thank you for having us here.
Just real quick, our team is envisioning our final product into commercial space being operated by non-licensed pilots down to a level essentially like firemen. Does that play into anything you're doing with this policy, like end use, or this is just strictly concerned with the fly-off and GoAERO scenario that stuff's later on?
Yeah, this is more specific to GoAERO. We have had contestants reach out already, actually, and ask us about different coverages for elsewhere, right? Kind of like what you're asking. And, you know, we're always happy to talk to you about it and go from there and see what we can do.
So this is prioritized for just
This is prioritized. Yeah, kind of phase 2. Yep. So,
thanks very much.
yes.
Two questions. So, you might miss something. So, is this for the stage 2, and then also covers the fly-off in 2 years from now? Is that what this is?
So this will be only an annual policy. We're gonna have to review once, you know, stage 3 or next year. We typically review end of year. So with this deadline being September 30th, we'll probably start reviewing stage 3 after that, right? But this will be an annual policy, and that's as far as it will get you through that time frame.
And then second question, like cars, two cars or two policies, do you get 2 aircraft or do you get 2 policies or
Yeah, in this scenario, it's gonna be liability for your emergency response flyers in this case. Yes, and this is liability only, so no physical damage coverage or anything like that.
And then also do you need like passenger
Yeah, I think that comes into a little bit about what Nick was talking about earlier, right? Like we're trying to be progressive in this market, and trying to put our best foot forward. We've ran into issues. We'd like to see other carriers get a little bit more involved, but like I said, if you have any additional questions outside of this, like happy to answer them, and we can go from there too and see. But I think, go ahead.
Generally, and get coverage for home built fingerprint for this. Of course, you can issue insurance for aircraft.
Yeah, so yeah, I work with a lot of home built on the just P&B side, pleasure and business side. But yeah, so I mean, we have that ability, and I don't know, I guess, what coverage exactly you're asking for. You're asking for like physical damage coverage, or?
No, just for the.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I didn't even know it was possible to get insurance for something we make ourselves.
Oh, yes, yes. It all has to come down to review. So just let us know. You can email that. Oh, I'll go back here maybe. I can figure out how to go back. What is the email address again? GoAERO.
GoAERO team at global-aero.com. So
There we go.
the clickers are right there too. Right? This one right here.
Oh. Maybe. Any other questions? Oh, yes.
I don't know if I heard correctly, maybe it's in here correctly, but if we had like two drones, like I call it early prototype, and then late, let's say, would it cover both those drones or just one?
Are you still using the early prototype?
No, we're going to be building both. The early prototypes will go in July, and the later one like so we just decommission one, is that how it works? How do we do that? Finish one.
Yeah, I mean, generally, we would cover both. If you've decommissioned it, then it's sitting somewhere, it's not really flying. But if you declare it on your application, we would consider that to be covered.
So we, okay.
So you could have a couple of prototypes on a single policy that are covered. And to Kyle's earlier point about the duration of the policy, right now they're 12-month policies, which may not get you to the final fly-off. So the idea would be for us to renew those and get you to the final fly-off and get you covered through the final fly-off.
Okay.
We'll just have to mechanically figure out how that works out with dates and timelines and all that.
Is there an upper limit on the number of aircraft the company is flying under this policy, or is that determined?
Case by case. The idea is we can't imagine that any of the teams would have more than, what would it be? 5 prototypes? I mean, I don't know. What do I know? But,
How many do you got?
yeah. But there's no hard set rule like thou cannot have, this many.
And on the opposite side of that, if a team pulls out of the competition 6 months in and says, we're done, what happens? Is there a pro rata or?
No, there's not a pro rata cancellation. It's a flat premium at one time, so.
I would certainly encourage you to look into Global Aerospace as they sort of demonstrate all of the experience and expertise here. They're also offering an excellent rate if you look into coverage. We're welcome to check other insurance companies and policies, but given the relationship that we have with them and the relationship and understanding that they have in the aviation industry and other companies that the caliber of what we developing, they're an incredible resource to check.
Just one last question. So you also deal in collision damage. I mean, aside from liability, which is this, you do have coverages available if we're interested in.
Yeah, it's probably not likely that we would provide the coverage for prototypes for the competition, which is why we didn't schedule that in the beginning. But I wouldn't rule it out. We would consider it for sure. But that's very difficult for us to insure prototypes. It's difficult to value it. If you have partial damage to the aircraft, what's the repair worth? Who controls the repair? Who's got the knowledge in terms of what needs to be done to repair it? So it gets into a really tricky space Now, having said that, we do insure prototypes throughout the company, but it's very difficult and tricky, so we would have to consider it on a case-by-case basis. And it's generally, you would probably think it's expensive. And we would ask you to pay a significant deductible as well, so that we kind of share the risk together.
Any other questions? Great, thank you so much.
All right, thanks, guys.